tough names, established names in the party that he had to overcome with a lot of resources in order to be able to win that election. That same hard work, that same tenacity he has taken to Congress. And he's one of the youngest congressmen there, but has earned the respect of many, not only in the House of Representatives, but in the other side on the Senate also. Our Senator Lugar, the Republican side, and Senator Mbai on the Democrat side, they respect him, and he has earned the respect, and we have always loved him, we admired him, we are grateful that you are here, you have always kept up your promise, you have supported MAI, and we are grateful to that. And I am sure that everyone in this room, when the time comes for re-election, will be working together. Do you all agree with me? One of the other distinctions that our congressman has had is that he has been in the Air Force One with our president twice now. Once when President Obama was running, and once he has, after being a president, he has traveled in that plane, and that's quite a distinction. That's good. His beautiful wife is with us also. I'm glad that she's here, but she is lives in Indianapolis, but our congressman continues to live in Washington, D.C. and does his job greatly. And I want to have a great, great applause for our congressman and invite him to the podium, please.
Thank you, Brother Khan. Thank you so much. Thank you, MAI, for this wonderful My Life Story, for this wonderful event. Thank you, Sharik, for your friendship. I really appreciate your friendship. And thank you, MAI staff. You guys work so hard. You don't fix mics, but you work so hard to put this event together. I think that this organization represents Muslims very, very, very well. I think that we have a PR problem that I always talk about, and you guys give a great face to Muslims and to the religion of Islam. Sharik, thank you again, friend, for your leadership. Thank you for partnering with our organization from day one, and we greatly appreciate you, and we consider you to be a part of Team Carson. I want to thank my lovely wife, Mariama, for coming. Thank you so much. Good to see Judge Shahid here, and my mother-in-law, Mother Brenda Shahid, and Shahid family, Michael Sahir, and Vop Asali, and Tom McKenna. Good to have you guys here. And each and every one of you, who am I missing here? I see some familiar faces out here, and it's 9:45. So that means I need to be quick. But I wanted to address you guys because the last time you saw me was about a year ago. And I was still running to win the general election, and President Obama, he wasn't even president yet. He was still Senator Obama. So it's great to be here a year later. I stand here tonight as a proud Hoosier and a proud Muslim who wants to see our country move forward. Our community right now has been rocked by the steepest economic downturn since the Great Depression. We've got a healthcare crisis in this nation that is literally costing the lives of many Americans. But throughout these great challenges, we can take heart in the fact that time after time, this nation has consistently answered the call to overcome tremendous odds and achieve great things. In 1787, at a constitutional convention in Independence Hall, Benjamin Franklin was approached by a lady named Mrs. Powell. And Mrs. Powell approached Ben Franklin and said very simply, said, "Well, Ben, what have we got?" a republic or a monarchy? And Ben Franklin responded and said, well, we've got a republic if you can keep it. If you can keep it. These simple but very profound words have been key to the survival of this representative democracy. They have been the guiding light that has successfully led us through the dark times throughout our nation's history. And today, more than 200 years after these words were spoken, they are now a call to action to all of us. The true power of this great nation, the strongest in the world, the United States of America, your country, our government, is arguably the most powerful nation in the world. But we have to be actively engaged in keeping this republic. Unfortunately, this is a choice that millions of Muslims across the world do not have. So many of our Muslim brothers and sisters today are demanding the basic, fundamental rights we have as Muslim Americans. And they are doing so at the risk of violence and even death. Earlier this year in Pakistan, we saw the amazing power of what everyday people can accomplish. And we were a part of this effort. Some of you may recall that Chief Justice Chaudhry was illegally removed from the Supreme Court by President Musharraf. And his removal was a huge blow to a nation that was founded by the great Muhammad Ali Jinnah. We worked with the Obama administration, we worked with Congressman Keith Ellison and others to get him reinstated. But it took the people of Pakistan to lead the effort. And especially it took the young people to lead the effort in what is now known as the Long March. And shortly after the young people demonstrated, Chief Justice Chaudhry was reinstated to the Supreme Court. Because of these brave Pakistanis, they inspired others. This summer we watched with horror and dismay as Iranians were brutally beaten and killed while peacefully demonstrating against their government. They were standing up for one simple thing, to ensure that their vote was counted. Even in the face of government intimidation and violence, these protests continued for weeks in Iran. I see a number of my Muslim sisters in the audience today who are very well educated and successful professionals. But unfortunately, millions of your fellow sisters in Islam are denied an education. They're denied, especially in places like Afghanistan, or Afghanistan, as my South Asian brothers and sisters say. They're denied simply for trying to attend grade school. This is unacceptable. Locally, we saw, as my dear friend Sharik mentioned, an incident that occurred earlier this year, unfortunately, with the head of Bridges TV and his spouse. And I bring that up because if we're going to make a mark in this country, and by Allah's grace, we're seeing more Muslims engaged in the political process. We have Muslim state representatives, we have Muslim city councilors. We're fortunate to have 2 Muslim members of Congress, myself and my dear friend Keith Ellison, but it's not enough. If we're going to be engaged in the political process, we have to do it, but we have to be organized. Some of you know one of our financial advisors on our campaign, Sister Emily Gerwitz, who happens to be Jewish. She told me something very profound, and Sharik, you know Emily's spirit. She said, you know, and Emily used to work for our friends at AIPAC, but Emily told me something interesting, Al-Huda. She said, you know, I see why certain groups are afraid of the Muslims. I said, what do you mean, Emily? She said, because Muslims have just as much money, they're just as educated as anybody else, but they're so disorganized. And that's what makes them irrelevant. Now, I tried to play it off and defend her, but in my heart, I said, man, she's right. People see the wealth of knowledge that we have and what we bring to the table, But we need to come together and be more organized. When President Obama took office, right before he took office, we were faced with some challenges. On the one end, those of you who helped my efforts, helped Brother Ellison's efforts, were very well aware of the atmosphere of bigotry that was so pervasive in 2008. There were commercials put out, campaigns questioning Brother Ellison's credibility and ties. There were YouTubes put out against me and President Obama and trying to tie us up to Al-Qaeda and some other groups. But the people spoke up. Muslims went to the polls in droves, and Muslims made a statement. But that wasn't enough. Before President Obama took office, there was still a deep level of suspicion around him. In the beginning of 2009, we were faced with issues. And we had to make a decision. A resolution came up in the House of Representatives. And the resolution addressed the U.S.'s commitment to Israel. The resolution was not proportional. No piece of legislation is really proportional. And I cast a vote, and Ellison cast a vote that was a present vote. I cast a yes vote, and Muslims were upset with both of us. Understandably so, but then I saw another group rise up who actually read the resolution. I'd probably say 98% of the people never read the resolution, but that's another story. It goes back to being disorganized. There were emails about it. I got more phone calls about the resolution than I did when I voted for S-CHIP. S-CHIP was a piece of legislation that ensures that children of migrant families are insured. We're talking about 9 million children being covered. Didn't get one call. Voted in favor of a Wall Street bailout that affects many companies that are led by Muslims. Not one call. But on a resolution, we got a lot of calls. While we were excited about the activity, and Keith and I, we take a different approach. You know, we're both trying to get downtown. I take Meridian, he takes Pennsylvania or Capitol Avenue, but we're still getting downtown. And Keith and I talked about this thing. And he and I raised the same thing. Where was the passion before the vote? I voted for it for 3 primary reasons. Though it wasn't proportional. It called for a 2-state solution. That's what we all want. We're realistic. It called for an apology to those brothers and sisters in Gaza. And it called for sending money to that region. After the vote, we met with Secretary Clinton. I mentioned it to President Obama, and we sent a letter with other members of Congress. And weeks after that, we were able to get millions of dollars to the brothers and sisters in the Gaza region. As a result, I think that we are embarking on a new day where it's time for us to show new leadership and bold leadership. Not the kind of leadership that has led us in the past, based solely on emotionalism. Weeks after that resolution, thank you for your applause. Weeks after that resolution, a Muslim sister was decapitated, beheaded. They said, don't say beheaded, say she was beheaded in New York. Outside of MAI, and I applaud you for speaking out, and a few other brothers and sisters, you didn't hear a sound from Muslims. Where was the outrage? Why weren't the brothers who are outspoken on so many other issues, why weren't their undergarments up in a bunch over a Muslim sister being decapitated? That's a critical question that we have to raise. And it's the kind of hypocrisy that will continue to hurt our efforts. The world is watching the Muslim community. And if you're unwilling to speak up about a Muslim sister being decapitated, nobody cares about what you think about a lifeless resolution. We won't see the kind of mobility that we need unless we get together. I was in Chicago, and I love Chi-Town, and we got to get back there soon. And I said, well, how many Muslims are in Chicago? And someone told me almost 1 million Muslims. 800,000 to 750,000. You mean to tell me there are that many Muslims in Chicago and there isn't one congressional representative? You mean to tell me that there are over 1 million Muslims in the New York area and there's only one city councilor? And I met him. What's the problem? New Jersey has a Muslim mayor. They have a Muslim city councilor, but we need more. We need many more. I was going up I-65 a few weeks ago, and on my way to Chicago, and I went through Jasper County. I went through White County. I went through Carroll County, and I saw a bunch of wind farms. Miles and miles of wind farms. We have a great opportunity. Just last year, over 100,000 Hoosiers lost their jobs. 100,000. The American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, also known as the stimulus, will provide and produce more jobs. It's already putting Hoosiers back to work, but it isn't enough. I looked at this. And as I go to conferences and speak to Muslims, I'm proud of what we represent. We are some of the most educated, some of the most professional, some of the wealthiest people you ever want to meet. But the greater reality is that over 80% of the American population is without college degrees. So there's a disconnect there. I'm saying that these wind turbines that I saw going north on 65, it's an impressive reality. And I commend those farmers who negotiated that leasing agreement. But those wind turbines were built in China. Where are our Muslim engineers? Where are our small business owners? We have them, but who are involved in the green movement, who can put Hoosiers back to work. We know that half of the American population is employed by small businesses. Small businesses are the backbone of this country. Where are our Muslim small business owners? Where are our Muslim asset managers who can deal with the financial bailout? Are we ready? Are we ready to compete for federal contracts and act as primaries? Not just be happy as subs, that's good, but act as primaries, Brother Chris Warden. I don't know if they're ready. Where we can show over $100 million in capital and show the capacity where we can act as such. I meet with so many ambassadors from Africa and the Middle East, and I say to myself, you know, why aren't there any Muslim consulting companies helping them out? Have we really made the connection? If you look at the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, you see a lot of Muslim contributors, and some of these brothers and sisters have a great wealth of knowledge as it relates to international affairs. Why aren't we taking advantage, Brother Sharik, of some of these consulting contracts? We don't have any. I'm limited what I can do ethically, but see, we talk a good game. Once we give to these candidates, myself included, and we have Brother Vop and Brother Tom here, we're so happy to see them. Not them, they're good people. But once we give to these candidates, we have to make them accountable. My staff says I shouldn't use this language, especially with these cameras rolling, but I think the context is appropriate. When you're courting someone, you want to show them that you're interested. Take them out for dinner. You want to be clean. You want to walk them alongside the beach. You don't want to show disrespect or be vulgar by calling them at 2:30 a.m. in the morning, expecting them to show some attention. or at 2:30 a.m. in the morning when no one's watching. The younger generation, they call that a booty call, not to be vulgar, Congressman. But we're all grown, don't act like you don't know. But that's the kind of disrespect that we've seen from elected officials. They come, they get our money, they say, Skamire Bacon, whatever you say, and then we're happy that they showed up. We're happy that they showed up. But if we're going to give to them and support their efforts, not these two, they're visionary, but if we're going to support their efforts, we have to hold elected officials accountable and make them accountable. And when they cast votes that we don't like, we need to call them. All of them, not just the two Muslims, all of them. Don't try to be safe and call me and Keith. Call all of them. We've seen many movements in this country. We've seen the abolitionist movement to end slavery. We've seen the civil rights movement, the feminist movement. We've seen movements, but where is the Islamic Renaissance? I think it's beginning right here with MAI. We need a renaissance in this country. I want to say to you, as I close, that this is a place for great possibilities and opportunities. I'm looking in the audience at the next U.S. ambassadors to Senegal, to Russia, to the Middle East, to China, to Australia, to Micronesia. Why not? Why can't a Muslim be the ambassador to Australia? I'm looking at the next city councilors who will change this city. I'm looking at the next mayors and governors and members of Congress, not in the 7th Congressional District yet, but members of Congress. But it's going to take us being engaged in the political process. Let us be a resource to you. ISNA had a meeting. Is Sister Ingrid Madsen still in town?
Yes, she is.
And she didn't make it out. She's a wonderful sister. She was the first president of ISNA.
She's a woman of
The first. A renaissance in this country. ISNA's taking charge. We need more Muslim women at the forefront. We have great models for success in Khadija radiallahu anha, Aisha radiallahu anha. But we need more. I want to think big and say, in at least 10 or 15 years, we could have a Muslim woman as president, with or without a hijab. You want to walk with me? I don't know if some brothers are ready for that, sisters. Are you ready for that? What will it take? Brothers too. You know, we're sensitive. Brothers too. But if we put Muslim women out into the forefront, that solves 80% of our public relations problem. Most of the American people, when they think about Islam, they don't think about us worshiping some false god. They think about Muslims being womanizers, Muslims being abusive polygamists, Muslims keeping their women at home. We should push more Muslims to the forefront to be leaders. And whatever we do, we should strive to do it with excellence. Look at this program. This is something that we can be proud of. I can bring my friends to a place like this. We can bring elected officials and leaders here. We can bring President Obama here. Look at the sharpness and professionalism that we see in this audience. Something to be proud about. I've been to some Eids and people say, hey, I want to learn about your religion. I said, well, right now, not right now. That folk coming in looking crazy. To each his own. But I'm studying more, and Sister Khadija, you did a good program up in D.C., and I applaud you for that, and keep up the great work. But I want to touch on something. Yeah. When we have these advocacy groups that come to Capitol Hill or State House, let's think that this is the sale. You have elected officials who are busy, and you have 5 or 10 minutes to make the sale to get support. And when you come, make it a good sale. I see Mother Shahid, and I think about that. Make it professional. For that brother who doesn't like to shake sister's hands, that's okay. He probably shouldn't come to Capitol Hill. and meet with the Muslim woman of Congress. Let's keep him off to the side on something else. That's his belief, alhamdulillah. Certainly for the sisters, we respect that. But for the brother who doesn't like to do it, let's keep him, he can advise. I'm being honest. I've had members of Congress come to me, women, and say, you know, Congressman, I met a group of Muslims and none of them would shake my hand. Why the hell they come talk to me? I said, man, that put us back 10 years. If you come, last year they had Muslim Advocacy Day on the Hill, and about 7 different groups came. You had some brothers and sisters who came in shirts and ties, some who came in thobes, and that's good, some who came with dye, and that's all right, and some smelling like 15 different oils. I like the oils. It showed our diversity, and that's great. We're diverse. We're not monolithic. We're monotheistic, but we aren't monolithic. I think it's beautiful. But we have to have a unified message, and it's great that we're concerned about Pakistan, Afghanistan, the Middle East, Iran, Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But we have to show our patriotism to this great country as well. I leave you with this. There was a conversation that Prophet Isa had with his followers or disciples that is mentioned in the Injil, or the Gospel. And they were talking about this notion of leadership. And he simply said to them, he who wishes to be chief among you shall first be your servant. If we highlight and show our willingness to serve, then we will build the respect and honor of the American people that we so deserve. We have been here since the inception of this country as indigenous Muslims, and we will be here going forward in the future. But we first must show our commitment to service and our patriotism to this great country that offers us so many opportunities. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Brother Carson, Brother Andrew Carson. He's put a challenge on us. It's wonderful that we can contribute in dollars, but there's a lot more that we would need to do with our efforts, with our skills, with our knowledge, and inshallah, if we all can do that, and MEI is very happy to support any initiatives that any of us would like to begin in that regard. And please talk to Brother Sharik or the MEI board members if we have ideas in doing those things that Brother Carson has been talking about. At this point, I want to thank many of you that have helped to put this program together, this whole convention together. And I want to start with our wonderful volunteers who've been here all day since before 8 o'clock this morning and are still here working hard today, and there were volunteers that were here on the last few days of our program as well. So I want to ask all of the volunteers who are here to please stand up and be recognized. If you've been a volunteer, They've really done a tremendous job, and some of them are not here. They've been here, but they've had to go home, they've had to leave, or they might be even still helping out outside this room. And we have, in putting this program together, one of the things, and this might be something that Muslims, again, need to work on. One of the things we found is that many of the registrations came in the last few days. We're very happy to see the registration numbers go up very rapidly as the conference approached. But it did mean that we had to make some improvisations and adjustments to the program to make sure we could accommodate everybody that was here, make sure the rooms were available. And oftentimes the volunteers had everything worked out But then we told them, no, they're not going to be here, they're going to be somewhere else. And they just switched around. They just did, you know, it was like in the military, if the drill sergeant says, about turn, and they didn't miss a beat. You know,
Okay.
Good, that's good, thank you.
Never give me the go and I will go. Yeah. Testing, testing, testing.